takes it. He's cutting up to his left. He's over the 10. Nice block there by Lehman. Tuff still going. He's up to the 25. And now he's hit and hit hard about the 27-yard line. Bruiser Kennard made the tackle. We interrupt this broadcast and bring you this important bulletin from the United Press.
Japanese have attacked Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, by air, President Roosevelt has just announced. The attack also was made on all naval and military activities on the principal island of Oahu.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. No matter how long it may take us to overcome this premeditated invasion, the American people in their righteous might will win through to absolute victory.
In the weeks following Pearl Harbor, the American nation mobilized for war, sending young men halfway around the world in all directions, to the European, Asian Pacific, North African, and Mediterranean theaters, each challenged with dramatically different fighting conditions. American men and women fought to liberate not only the occupied countries, but ultimately the oppressors themselves, Germany and Japan. When asked what it meant to be a part of the war effort, one veteran said that he felt like he had done his part in turning the 20th century from one of darkness into one of light, while another said, "I was 18 years old and had my whole life in front of me. I have been taught the difference between right and wrong, and I didn't want to live in a world in which wrong prevailed. So I fought." Nicknamed the Greatest Generation or GI Generation by Tom Brokaw's 1998 publication of a book by the same name, Brokaw lauded the Greatest Generation for their selflessness, dedication to duty, and unwavering commitment to the collective good. Drilling down on the demographics of the Greatest Generation, the Pew Research Center has defined the generation as being born between 1901 to 1927. The first half of the generation born between 1901 and 1912, while the majority of World War II veterans were born from 1913 to 1924. For the earlier half of the Greatest Generation, many had grown up in the high cotton years of the Roaring '20s and the Progressive Era, while nearly all of them lived through the Spanish flu of 1919 and the Great Depression that dogged the nation until the onset of war. Born to parents of the lost generation, the Greatest Generation experienced plenty of hardships during the hardscrabble days of the Great Depression, but they also grew up in an age of rapid technological advances, including radios, telephones, and automobiles. In movie theaters across the nation, Hollywood had reached its golden age, with films like It's a Wonderful Life, Gone with the Wind, The Grapes of Wrath, Citizen Kane, and Casablanca. The Greatest Generation also had their signature music and dance during the swing era of modern jazz, which became a cornerstone of their generational spirit. For those who fought in World War II, some had been farmers or coal miners. Others had been store clerks, teachers, truck drivers, lawyers, accountants, and doctors. But what unified them as a common, single-minded force was their belief that they were locked in a primal battle between good and evil, caused by Hitler's brazen assault on our peace-loving neighbors and Hirohito's unprovoked aggression, not only at Pearl Harbor, but across the entirety of Asia and the South Pacific Basin. 2 days after Pearl Harbor, FDR yet again addressed an anxious nation.
We are now in this war. We're all in it. All the way. Every single man, woman, and child is a partner in the most tremendous undertaking of our American history. We must share together the bad news and the good news, the defeats and the victories, the changing fortunes of war.
FDR's words went straight to the hearts of Americans, reaffirming their common belief that they were locked in a crusade against tyranny, mayhem, and oppression. FDR further stirred up patriotic resolve with his speech on the 4 freedoms that belong to every person in every part of the world.
The first is freedom of speech and expression everywhere in the world. The second is freedom of every person to worship God in his own way everywhere in the world. The third is freedom from want, which translated into world terms means economic understandings which will secure to every nation a healthy, peacetime life for its inhabitants everywhere in the world. The fourth is freedom from fear, which translated into world terms means a worldwide reduction of armaments to such a point and in such a thorough fashion that no nation will be in a position to commit an act of physical aggression against any neighbor anywhere in the world.
For those who fought, all 4 freedoms were not without a heavy price. During battles fought in nearly every corner of the world, Operation Torch in North Africa, Midway, Iwo Jima, and Guadalcanal in the Pacific, Sicily's Operation Husky, and the invasion of Anzio in mainland Italy. On June 6, 1944, the Greatest Generation undertook Operation Overlord, the largest amphibious landing in world history, before Allied forces began their long and bloody slog across the European continent.
Almighty God, our sons, pride of our nation, this day have set upon a mighty endeavor, a struggle to preserve our republic, our religion, and our civilization, and to set free a suffering humanity. Lead them straight and true. Give strength to their arms, stoutness to their hearts, steadfastness in their faith.
There is fighting every day, one veteran recalled. You can hear it down the road or in the distance. Sometimes when it's cloudy, you can't tell where the sounds of the fighting are coming from, but they're always there. The artillery booms, 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 and then is answered by the echoes in the distant valleys, all sounding like heartbeats coming up from the earth. Sometimes I swear that war is a living thing, huge and ugly, that eats up lives. While 16.1 million Americans served in the armed forces during World War II, Americans back home were equally involved in supporting the war effort. Americans of all ages rationed their food, bought war bonds, and volunteered to send care packages to American fighting men overseas. It was a war effort like never before, where the courage, endurance, and loyalty of American civilians played a vital role in winning the war.
This whole nation of 130 million free men and women and children is becoming one great fighting force. Some of us are soldiers or sailors, some of us are civilians. Some of us are fighting the war in airplanes 5 miles above the continent of Europe or the islands of the Pacific, and some of us are fighting it in mines deep down in the earth of Pennsylvania or Montana. A few of us are decorated with medals for heroic achievement, but all of us can have that deep and permanent inner satisfaction that comes from doing the best we know how. Each of us playing an honorable part in the great struggle to save our democratic civilization.
With able-bodied American men fighting the war in Europe and the Pacific, by 1943, women stepped up to fill the labor vacuum, making up 1/3 of the American labor force during World War II. 20 million women went to work outside the home, not just at typewriters and sewing machines, but in jobs that had long been considered the exclusive domain of men. During the war, almost 15,000 workers were killed or permanently disabled in industrial accidents, with another 3 million injured. It was a dangerous environment for both men and women alike, but that was something the government and newsreels didn't want to talk about. Instead, the emphasis was on patriotism and determination, and in a manner peculiar to the times, sex. Rosie the Riveter, as women workers became known, were iconized first in 1942 by Westinghouse artist J. Howard Miller, whose poster showed a determined woman under the slogan, "We can do it." Norman Rockwell's 1943 Saturday Evening Post cover further cemented women's vital role in the war effort. Rockwell's Rosie was brawny and tough, and when compared to Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel depiction of the prophet Isaiah, the likenesses between Rosie and Isaiah become crystal clear. The mythology behind Rosie the Riveter was further amplified in a 1943 song by Red Evans and John Jacob Loeb, which cemented the patriotic dedication of women supporting the war effort through their own labor and determination. Most working Rosies didn't realize it at the time, but this first mass wave of women in the workforce was the beginning of the women's liberation movement, proving that women could do a man's job and hold their own in any work environment. Since war's end, many Rosies recall that they felt good about what they were doing, along with a special bond between the women who each felt that they were doing their part to bring an end to Nazi and Japanese aggression. When Allied troops landed at Normandy during the D-Day invasions of France, the invasion force included 50,000 vehicles of all types, well over 5,000 ships, and more than twice that number in airplanes. While many factors led up to victory, in both theaters of war, one key element was the ability of American industry to outbuild Germany and Japan in the largest mechanized war the world has ever seen. Detroit automakers played a key role in the Allies' victory when they switched from building cars to building the machinery of modern warfare. For example, Ford's enormous Willow Run plant produced a total of 8,685 B-24 heavy bombers, outputting 1 plane per hour by early 1945. Due to the use of interchangeable parts, Willys Overland, Ford, and Bantam produced more than 1.3 million Jeeps, or Blitz buggies as they were affectionately known. Just before his death in 1945, famed war correspondent Ernie Pyle wrote of the Jeep, "Good Lord, I don't think we could continue the war without the Jeep. It does everything, it goes everywhere. It's as faithful as a dog, as strong as a mule, and as agile as a goat." Detroit also provided the war effort with a steady supply of tanks from Chrysler's enormous Detroit Arsenal tank plant, including 3,352 M3 tanks and 17,947 M4 Sherman Series tanks, or approximately 36% of the total 49,234 Sherman tanks built for the war effort. General Motors also joined the fight by constructing 21,000 amphibious landing craft known as duck boats, costing the U.S. government $10,800 for each amphibious vehicle rolling off GM's assembly lines. GM also produced an arsenal of other war material, including nearly 120 million artillery shells, over 39 million cartridge casings, 206,000 aircraft engines, 13,000 Navy fighter planes, 854,000 transport trucks, and nearly 2 million machine guns. With the fate of the free world at stake, Detroit and its surrounding industrial communities played heavily into America's quest to outbuild Hitler and Hirohito, allowing American industrial might to play a starring role in the Allies' eventual victories over Nazi and Japanese aggression. When peace finally arrived, Eleanor Roosevelt wrote that there is great happiness, too, in the knowledge that someday soon many of those that we love will be home again to give all they have to the rebuilding of the peaceful world. One cannot forget, however, the many, many lives to whom this day will bring only a keener sense of loss. For as others come home, their loved ones will not return. In every community, if we have eyes to see and hearts to feel, we will for many years see evidences of the period of the war which we have been through. There will be men among us who all their lives, both physically and mentally, will carry the marks of war, and there will be women who mourn all the days of their lives. Yet there must be an undercurrent of deep joy in every day. There must be an undercurrent of deep joy in every human heart, and great thankfulness that we have world peace again. The greatest opportunity the world has ever had lies before us. God grant we have enough understanding of the divine love to live in the future as one world and one people. After the hardscrabble days of the Great Depression, the greatest generation's all-in can-do commitment to winning the war against tyranny brought about a time of booming prosperity on the home front, prompting former British Prime Minister Winston Churchill to proclaim that America at this moment stands at the summit of the world. GI Generation soldiers returned home weary of adventure, with a unified desire to settle down into family life with their sweethearts, igniting a baby boom from 1946 to 1964 that recorded roughly 4 million births each and every year. With the greatest generation now at the helm of American business and governance, the nation entered a golden age of American capitalism that saw the doubling of America's gross national product from 1946 to 1960, flooding a burgeoning middle class with consumer goods and revolutionary home appliances like never before. Fueled by low-cost mortgages backed by the GI Bill, young couples flocked to new tract suburbs built by developers such as William Levitt, collectively earning the nicknames Fertility Valley and the Rabbit Hutch in light of the ongoing baby boom. During their reign in post-war America, the greatest generation played a pivotal role in rebuilding the economy and shaping modern American values, institutions, and infrastructures. Their unified sense of values, hard work, sacrifice, patriotism, humility, and community not only enrich the collective values of a nation, while their impact on later generations continues to inspire a sense of awe and admiration for their resilience, sacrifice, and unity in the face of darkness and oppression. However, as the members of this greatest generation continue to pass away, it becomes increasingly important to preserve their stories and honor their contributions to the foundations of freedom and democracy, making the greatest generation a beacon of strength during one of the darkest times in human history.